Everybody loves a good antihero, and right now Deadpool and Harley Quinn are two of the most popular. Even though they're from totally different worlds, Marvel vs. DC, you might be surprised by how much these two characters have in common. Harley's known for her awesome sense of style and codependent relationship tendencies. But have you ever considered that she's awfully comparable to Wade Wilson? Usually I like to think about who would win in a fight, but this time I'm going to be celebrating the similarities between these two great comic book characters. Just be prepared because there will be Birds of Prey spoilers. Let's start out by looking at the backstories of these characters. Most heroes in comic books don't come from happy backgrounds, and that's doubly true for villains. Although they've risen to anti-hero status over the years, both Deadpool and Harley were once decidedly insidious. In Birds of Prey, Harley revealed that her father had a serious alcohol problem and refused to give her the attention she longed for. Instead, he dropped her off at an orphanage where she endured no shortage of pain at the hands of nuns who presumably didn't find her antics amusing. But despite all of that, she managed to go to school, earn her PhD, and get a job as a psychiatrist. In Deadpool, we learned a fair bit about Wade Wilson's childhood when he was flirting with Vanessa at a bar. As a rule, talking about childhood traumas is not the best way to score a date. So don't try this at home, kids. The movie version of Wade claimed to have been hurt by an uncle and later forced to watch his own birthday party happen through a keyhole while locked in a closet. It's hard to know which of these details is true and which of them were just his weird yet surprisingly effective flirting method. But in the comic books, Wade also has shaky and inconsistent memories of his childhood, but most of them are pretty terrible. And this bit about backstories brings me to another important detail that these two have in common. They're both incredibly unreliable narrators. Sure, they do their best to present the facts, but they're far from objective. Wade Wilson has so many memory problems that he's only fairly certain that's his real name. Harley Quinn fares a bit better in that department, since she recalls all of her trauma, but her interpretations of day-to-day events are still all over the place. Both characters interpret things in, let's say, unique ways. This makes them entertaining storytellers, but they're not much for small details. For instance, in Birds of Prey, Harley's voiceover makes it seem as though her breakup was pretty standard, and she handled it with grace and maturity. But the audience sees her throwing knives, tattooing herself, and spraying Cheese Whiz right into her mouth. Now that's relatable. Both Deadpool and Harley Quinn know what it's like to be head over heels in love with somebody, but that's not terribly unique. Not that romance isn't great and all, but most characters have fallen in love at one point or another. But for Harley and Deadpool, their loved ones are major motivators for their behavior. Before she met the Joker, Harley was a respected psychiatrist. Not only did she throw away her entire career, but she gave up her identity and the whole not being a criminal thing for him. Without that relationship, she would be Harleen Quinzel and not the Harley we all know and love. In the Deadpool movie, so many of Wade's actions are influenced by his love for Vanessa. He's so amazed to have found such a perfect match that he can't stand the idea of being without her. When he gets diagnosed with cancer, he leaves because he can't stand the thought of her seeing him ill. His desire to be with her is so powerful that he agrees to be experimented on, which is how he ended up with his powers. Love isn't just an important part of their personalities. They literally would not be who they are today if it wasn't for their respective romantic relationships. In both the movies and comic books, Wade works as a mercenary, but Wade doesn't always fight to save the day. As a mercenary, he works for whoever's paying, even if they're on the wrong side of the law. While Deadpool's definitely become more heroic with time, he started out as a bad guy. And as for Harley Quinn, well, we all know she's done bad things. In fact, most of the things she does are horrible, like when she blew up a chemical plant to signify her breakup from the Joker. Couldn't she have just changed her Facebook status like everybody else? Both Harley and Deadpool don't exactly work well with others, at least at first. In the first Deadpool movie, our favorite anti-hero resisted joining up with the X-Men and shows an overall reluctance to be a part of a team. He only joins up with allies when he really needs something, and it's the only way to get what he wants. Harley is also known for her inability to play well with others, and Birds of Prey really highlights just how many enemies she's made over the years. Although it pains me to remember this terrible movie, in Suicide Squad, she was a very reluctant member of said club and tried to make off with the Joker at the first opportunity. But although it may not come naturally to them, both characters are capable of working together with a team, and the fact that they're so contrary definitely makes for plenty of amusing scenarios. While Harley and Deadpool don't take naturally to teams, they definitely have a soft spot for kids. In Deadpool 2, we saw Wade risk his own life in order to save Russell, who frankly was kind of a jerk for most of the movie. Wade was moved by the fact that he was just a kid, even though he was also a kid who could light things on fire with his brain. And then there's Harley, who develops a soft spot for Cassandra Cain during Birds of Prey. Considering how much mayhem and pain we saw her cause in the movie, it's surprising that she didn't straight up start slicing at her to get that diamond. The very fact that she gave Cassandra a chance to produce the gem herself showed Harley's soft side for children. By the end of the movie, she put herself at considerable risk, even though she knew her deal with Roman was off the table. But Harley was willing to risk her life to save Cassandra, and even help take care of her afterwards. I'm not saying that Wade or Harley should be opening a daycare or anything, but it's clear that they're kinder than they'd like to admit when children are involved. But even without knowing their backstories, it's not hard to see that Deadpool and Harley share similar traits, and one of the biggest is their sense of humor. They're not afraid to speak their minds and find humor in things that might horrify other people. How many people can walk away from total destruction and barely blink? Even by superhero standards, they're both pretty blasé about violence and gore. They have macabre senses of humor, but also find joy in the little oddities of life. In Birds of Prey, Harley keeps a taxidermied beaver in her apartment, which is a reference to the comic books. There, it's revealed that this is a weird memento from Harley's childhood love, and she named it Bernie after her former boyfriend. Of course, Harley talks to it and pretends it talks back, just to highlight that she's a little bit out there. Wade is definitely no stranger to talking to himself, or even the audience from time to time. As far as powers go, Deadpool is clearly far more powerful than Harley. I'm not here to talk about which one of them would win in a fight, but it would be Deadpool. No contest. In the comic books, he's cursed with immortality, but even in the movies, he might as well be immortal thanks to his ridiculously powerful healing factor. He's way faster and more durable than the average human already, and of course, he's a master combatant. But Deadpool doesn't have any flashy, over-the-top supernatural powers. And while he's strong, he's not on par with heavy hitters like the Incredible Hulk or Colossus. Harley Quinn also doesn't have any flashy powers, even though she's immune to most toxic substances since her dive into the chemical vat. She's also an incredible fighter who has experience with a wide range of weapons, even though she prefers to use a bat most of the time. Even though Deadpool has a longer list of special skills, their powers aren't as supernatural as those of other comic characters. Not only do they have similar combat styles, but they share a major weakness. As you've probably noticed, both Harley Quinn and Wade Wilson have their share of mental health issues. Their mental states have a massive impact on their actions, and they're not known for being especially stable. Although Wade had problems before gaining his other problems, his healing ability actually makes his mental instability worse. He's prone to sudden outbursts and can be unpredictable at best. Harley doesn't have any advanced healing powers, but her mental state is quite comparable to Deadpool's. She's quick to anger and considers violence to be a first resort instead of a last one. They're both volatile, and when things get bad, they can cause a lot of damage before they calm down. Maybe it's the fact that Deadpool and Harley rub so many people the wrong way that makes it all the more satisfying when they do manage to find friends. Harley has such a colorful personality that it's always entertaining to see her interact with other characters, and it's the same with Deadpool. Seriously, how great is the combination of Deadpool and Spider-Man in the comics? And on the big screen, it's pretty great watching Colossus try to keep Deadpool on track. When you've got a character who's a total loose cannon, it never gets old seeing people trying to rein them in. Even though these two characters live in different fictional universes, they both fulfill similar roles in their respective franchises. They're usually seen trying to do the right thing, but not being shy about causing collateral damage in the meantime. They're both wacky enough to make their companions seem level-headed in comparison, but they're not so crazy that they're completely dysfunctional or one-dimensional. And maybe the biggest thing they have in common is that fans just can't get enough of them. Deadpool and Harley Quinn are two of the most popular comic book characters around, and that doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. They've even managed to earn fans despite appearing in movies that were less than amazing. What do you think of this comparison between these two characters? Are you convinced they're a lot alike, or do you see them as totally different? Tell us what you think in the comments below, and then press subscribe for more new videos from CBR. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.